Hello and welcome to another studio vlog. It is officially crunch time for Finders Keepers and I just cannot believe we are so close to the weekend. I'm gonna have this vlog and then the next vlog. Because I started the mystery molds up again, I haven't been vlogging weekly, so I'm gonna kind of collate what I've done. Last vlog I kind of left you with the new kiln and it didn't work, which is a bit frustrating, but I left you with a sort of like open tally because we did craft lab and we sold some pieces, which was really fabulous, but then the tally kind of went a bit out of whack because we were making more pieces and then we were selling pieces, so it kind of went all funky. So this is the first week where the tally is going to be up again, but I'm not going to do it the same because it's literally just trying to powwow through all the work. It is literally go time. But yeah, we're just going to see what happens, but otherwise I'm feeling pretty good about it. I'm really excited. It's looking really colourful and I'm really proud so far. This is officially the last pour of all the molds. I have been continuously pouring all the molds alongside my studio assistant to get as many vessels done as possible. I'd rather have too many pieces that were drying than not enough and get to the last week and not have the time to allow stuff to dry. So here I am pouring the last of the Aussie animal molds, and then in between they're drying, I'm sitting down and doing emails and content over at my desk. And then once they were done, it was time to unload the bisque kiln. So I unloaded that, I pop it up on the shelf to wait for glazing, and then it was time to start painting some pieces for this week's vlog. So because this is kind of like a collation of a couple of weeks, I have been working really hard on getting 100 Aussie animals ready for the market, and that number doesn't sound like a lot, but it's also a lot. So 100 individually painted koala faces plus like dozens of flowers in every single animal's arms. It's just like such a big task. But here I am painting one of the flower colorways. I wanted to have a variety of different palettes and colors and flowers for people to choose from, which has actually led to a little bit of decision fatigue. I didn't think I was going to get decision fatigue, so I'm not burnt out or fatigued in the actual workload, but in making the decisions for the workload, because I keep going, oh, should I do this color? Or should I do this? Or what if someone likes this more than this? And what if this will sell more? And I just do not know what to do. And especially because this is my first market in a really, really long time, and such a high caliber market with a full-on application process. Yeah, it's just been tricky to make those decisions and to just commit to an idea. I've got so many ideas, I just don't know which ones to do. And also because it's kind of crunch time, which ideas are going to be the most efficient as well. But at the end of the day, because this is the first market I've done in a long time, it's all sort of research, and who knows what does well at one market might not do well in another market, so who can tell? And so I'm trying to be a little bit less worried about the decisions I make and sort of just going for it and just committing to some ideas, and it just is what it is. Part of me is also just really aware that at the end of the day, all the artworks are mine and they are pretty much signature of what I do. So I just have to have faith and confidence in what I'm doing and the decisions I make, and hope that they appeal to the people that are coming to the market. I will say, however, that for someone that does sometimes get overwhelmed with decision making and not being sure which way is the right way to go, writing that list at the very start, so the very first vlog I did, I wrote a list of all the things I was going to make. That helped clarify my decisions so much better. So if you're a bit like me, I highly recommend that, especially if you're planning for a really big event, to write a list of all the things that are going to make up your ideal tally, because oh my gosh, it has just freed up some space in my mental capacity to actually focus on the design aspect and the painting and the detail, rather than thinking, oh, how am I going to make up for this amount of work, and where am I going to get the numbers from this? And also being able to break things down into different price ranges as well. So I was able to sort of go, well, what are the different price ranges that I want to appeal to? What are the different products? How can I have a really good variety of everything? So that's where that list really came in handy. So I've got price ranges from just little merchy things like my stickers and magnets up to like a $35 item of pottery. Then I've got my $80 range, $100 to $200. So it's all kind of varies depending depending on what people want. And then I've also got the pieces that vary depending on the time they take to make. That was another big thing. I balanced out what things I needed to do in what certain time frame and how they would fit into the schedule, whilst also being able to fit those into price brackets. It was kind of a really inclusive thing so that it helped make the decision process a little bit easier. With that, I could also build on my varieties. So for example, with the koalas, I was like, wow, these all have a lot of really bright florals. So what else do I have that might appeal to someone that doesn't really want bright florals? So then I've got my mushroom stuff, and then there's some stuff that's like a little bit more minimalist where they're just a plain glaze, like some of my coffee mugs, and then there's the ducks, and it's just got a really, I'm hoping that it has a really good collection of things that appeal to so many different tastes, but the one commonality being that I made them. Because of all those reasons, I highly recommend it. An update with the larger kiln is I got the new elements installed and they work amazing. So they just draw a bit more power so that it can reach the temperature that it needs to reach. A really surprising thing about this larger kiln was I was very, very nervous to use it for the first time, like super scared to even sort of risk pieces going inside it. But now I don't really want to use the little kiln. I love my little kiln. I'm definitely keeping it forever because it's really great for little firings and even test firings and the luster firings that we do sometimes. But the bigger kiln has a better success rate, and I think that's because the heat moves better in the larger space than it does in my tiny little kiln. I think my tiny little kiln just sort of heats a bit funky, because I noticed that some pieces where they traditionally cracked, and I don't really show that too often, is that I was having a lot of issues with the mushroom butter dishes in particular. They're really, really popular, and I haven't shared this anywhere yet, but I was having major issues with them cracking really badly. I had to sell a lot of them as seconds. And then there's some that I still have here that are cracked so badly and they're warped so badly that I couldn't even sell them, and I couldn't figure out what was going wrong. I decided to do the mushroom butter dishes pretty early on because I wanted to paint them so that by the time I fired them, I wouldn't be upset if they broke, because that time was like long ago that I spent on them. But every single one of them in the bigger kiln turned out perfect. But I put only one of the mushroom butter dishes into the little kiln just as a test, and it cracked. So I have a feeling my little kiln is actually being a bit cheeky and is cracking those pieces. And I also have noticed it with some of my smaller wombat pots as well, is that they crack in the little kiln but not in the big kiln. So the big kiln has a higher success rate to not have a second piece, and also I noticed that the pieces don't warp as much. So it's a really good thing that I've got the bigger kiln now, because it means I'm going to get more perfect pieces out of every load. The last couple of vlogs, I have been setting pieces on the table and going, this is what we're going to paint, we're going to do this and this and this. But at the moment, it's just like, what can we paint? What can we paint? What designs do we need to do? And how are we going to get there? So this week I have done the Aussie animals. I'm also doing my flowering gum collection. My flowering gum is one of my absolute favorite flowers, and it's very, very popular. So I wanted to make sure I definitely had some flowering gum pieces at the market. And I must say, I really love how these look. They look detailed but minimal. They look so dreamy and delightful. And I've really been enjoying painting plates. I am so surprised at how fun painting plates is, but it just feels so fun that I get to see someone's sort of like breakfast plate come to life and bring this beautiful pattern to life on it. And it's so nice to paint such a big flat area. Don't get me wrong, I love painting mugs and I love painting pretty much everything with any design and getting creative, but the plates in particular are great. One thing I haven't been enjoying painting is actually the paint palettes because the little flowers on the rim of the paint palettes, which you'll see at the end of this video, some finished results of those, because they're so tiny, it's almost really frustrating because it's such a curvy shape whilst also painting tiny. Oh, it's so tricky. I have not been enjoying those, but they look so good, like it's worth it. I've just not been loving them as much as everything else. So here is another kiln firing. As I was talking about before with the cracking, every single one of these turned perfect. I am just so relieved. I cannot explain how anxious I was that I was going to lose potentially 14 mushroom butter dishes, and we ended up getting 14. So I am so grateful. I am so thankful. We've got 1 seconds one. I am going to bring it because it was only a little crack and it's still so beautiful. It's underneath and it doesn't actually impact the functionality of it. Just a bummer about the little kiln, but most things do well in it, so that's fine. I've talked about the big kiln a lot, and it's just because it's so great, and I probably wouldn't have been able to do this Finders Keepers market without it. I mean, I would have, but I wouldn't have had as many pieces because I would have been running the kiln constantly, packing it and unpacking it constantly, which then takes away time from painting and glazing. It has saved so much time, and to just kind of like set it and forget it in a way has been so nice. I finally caught up on all the pieces that I was behind on from the other week's tallies that I was getting behind on, and now I'm finally up to firing what I painted this week. So I didn't quite get those through in time for this vlog, but we have a tally of what I'm kind of up to, and it is amazing. Here I am packing one more bisque load, and then I'm going to glaze these pieces. I actually forgot to mention that at Craft Lab, we actually sold out of the shelf ducks, which actually totally surprised me. So Craft Lab wasn't necessarily a market, it was more of a workshop, meet the maker kind of experience. And so I was so shocked that we even sold out of one product. It was amazing because that wasn't the purpose of that event. So I had to come home and pour some more shelf ducks in between all of the extra pieces that I had to catch up on, just so that I would have some of those available at Finders Keepers. So I'm bisquing them in this firing, and then I'm going to glaze them up ready as well. But yeah, I was totally shocked, and this is what I'm talking about, not knowing what to bring and what's going to sell well, is that I know that they're cute and I love everything that I do, but I never know what you're going to love the most. So that's, yeah, pretty cool, pretty interesting. This week has been a lot of bisque firing, glazing again, making pieces, but the next vlog is going to be where I get everything ready. So that will include a lot of stuff. Like I'm going to do a test run of my market stall just to make sure I've got my setup all refined and I have everything ready, and then I'm going to pack that down from there to just make sure that I've remembered everything and I don't forget everything. And then it's also going to be how I'm going to price things. I realized that I have one less week than I thought because I was including the week in lead up to the event. But I forgot one key factor, is that the event doesn't start on Saturday. It actually starts on Friday. So Friday the 7th for that afternoon. But not only that, I have to bump in my stall the day before. So I have to set up the day before. So that's Thursday out, and that I've got to drive to Melbourne, which is 2 hours away from me. So that's a whole day gone as well. So it's technically Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So then on top of that, just to add to that, I've got to pack. I've got to pack all this pottery up. I've got to transport it somehow. So I've got to do that on Wednesday and Tuesday. So that just leaves Monday. And with that said, once we get to Monday, whatever gets done on Monday, that is it. That is all that's coming, because aside from that time, I've also got to get it through the kiln, and it takes about 24 hours for each kiln load. So it is like literally crunch. So there's literally 2 weeks left of making. So let's look at the tally to see how many pieces we need to do in that week. So the shelves are completely full. We've got all the collections that I couldn't show you last time that have come out, especially this cottage flower design, and here's that pesky little paint palette design with all the tiny flowers. We've got about, I reckon it's about 80 Aussie animals now. I've just been trying to pump them through. I'm not counting anything anymore because I'm so tired of counting all the pieces. And lots of mushroom dishes. So they actually came out a set of 14, and there's one that's a seconds one, which is that crack one. So there's 15 butter dishes, which is really great. This is what has come out from the flowering gum. Not much yet, but that leaves our tally with all this stuff and the stuff that still needs to be glazed, I'm not counting, at 369 pieces. I have about 40 pieces sitting waiting for enough to fire the kiln again. So that leaves us at 400, which means there's only 100 pieces to go to reach my total goal. I am so excited. So next week is the last vlog of getting ready, and I'll also take you along to the market in that one. So thank you so much for joining me. 100 to go. I can't wait to see you in the next vlog.